So, good morning or good night, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to another episode of Is It That Bad, where we take a look at an album that probably got mixed reviews or something. We listen to it again, and then we vote on it, and if we decide and if it's that bad. And we're not talking about this album. This is Operation Mindcrime 1. This is a classic. We are talking again the sequel to this album, which was released on 2006, and it's called Operation Mindcrime II. And here's the cover of that album. And yeah, it takes balls to release a follow-up to this classic album. So we're here to talk about it. So first of all, joining me again is JC Rock and Metal Reviews and Tom the Green Man. So first of all, how are you guys today?
Oh, good, thanks.
Yeah, pretty good, man. All good.
Good. So we're gonna go and do our free usual round. So for this one today, let's start with JC Rock and Metal Review. So what were your initial thoughts when you listened to Operation Mindcrime 2?
Okay, so let me start by saying that when Operation Mindcrime, the first one came out, I was just getting into metal. It came out in 1988, so I was about 17 years old, and I love that album. I still think it's like one of the best concept albums of all time, one of the best progressive metal albums of all time. Yeah, that one right there. I actually I reviewed it not long ago, like for the anniversary, and when I went back to listen to the original, I remember like the songs were so catchy, and just I remember just like I've memorized like all the lyrics, like I could like sing along with all the songs, even after I hadn't listened to it in like such a long time when I prepared that review. Now for this one, it just doesn't really have it. I think the problem was this band was kind of in a bad place. During this time, I think they kind of like decided to do a sequel out of desperation. I think they wanted to maybe see if they can get back some of the popularity that they once had. But the problem was is that they started moving in a different direction in the 2000s with starting with albums like I think it was Y2K or Q2K, and I think it was Tribe, and then I think this one came afterwards. So there was a lot of the band was going through problems. I think like Jeff Tate wanted to move the band in a different direction as well. Jeff Tate actually has another band called Operation Mindcrime, and
Yeah,
I don't like it that much.
it
He
sucks.
actually has two bands. Yeah, I don't like the new Operation Mindcrime band. He has another band called Sweet Oblivion, which is pretty good. It sounds like a little closer to classic Queensryche. But anyway, so I actually didn't know about this when it came out, which is surprising because you would think that it would be like this big thing. But at that time, when it came out in 2005, and I was, I guess, interested in other things at that time. I didn't pay attention to it the first time I listened to it, maybe a couple years ago when, I discovered it on streaming, but I never really listened to it, and I listened to it again to prepare for this, and I took my notes, and I'll keep my opinions about it when we get to the next rounds. So that's it.
Good. So what about you, Tom?
Yeah, so this is another one of those albums I hadn't really listened to at all, and I didn't really even know of its existence, I don't think, until a couple of years ago. That sort of being despite sort of knowing their early albums, their classics and everything. But this album, there was obviously, as John was saying, a lot of discontent in the band. I think there was some division. As I understand it, Jeff Tate was kind of just directing things with the help of this producer, Jason Slater, and apparently it was his first album as producer. And essentially they kind of, I think, ran the show somewhat, and the rest of the band, or a lot of the rest of the band, didn't really get too much of a say. I think you started to get this division. Michael Wilton, as I understand, he obviously, I don't think, liked the direction that the band were taking, and a lot of the rest of the band also didn't want to do a sequel to the classic Operation Mindcrime. To my mind, there's another band that have done a great sequel. Not many bands I can think of who've done good sequels to classic albums. One of them is Between the Buried and Me with Colours 2. That was a good sequel. But this one, it's sort of to my ears, I actually didn't like how the album sounded. I thought that the guitar tones were just rubbish. I didn't like the guitar tones at all. There just wasn't the same impact of the guitars from those old albums or anything. And it's therefore it just sounded like a bit of a flat record with no impact. And there was some elements of the songs I did enjoy, and there were some songs I quite liked, but I'll come to that a bit later on, obviously. But yeah, it was a bit of some symphonic elements as well in this album, weren't there, at times? I guess they were trying to make it sort of as epic as possible, but for me, that didn't really work because I didn't like the sound of the guitars on a lot of this album. So it all just felt a little bit sort of flat, as I say, and bland. Yeah, I guess it just, yeah. I'll save my final judgment of it, but yeah, it's just, I don't know, it didn't really work for me as a sequel on my first impression.
Nice. I love it how you say rubbish and it sounds so pretty.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think out of the three, I actually listened to this album when it came out, but I didn't buy it. At that time, I was a music pirate, so I got the pirated version of the album. So I'm glad I didn't spend money on it. But yeah, when I first listened that they were doing an Operation Mindcrime II, I was like, like, it's not easy to follow up an album that was so iconic, and probably I think that's their most popular album. That one and Empire. Those are their two, like when you think of Queensryche, those are their two albums.
Yeah.
And I was reading some backstory on this album. So I don't know if you guys know, but Ronnie James Dio sings on this album.
Yeah.
He played Dr. X, and they brought the same woman that played Sister Mary. So they're following the story of Mindcrime. It's 18 years later. He gets out of prison. So it's the story after. And I was reading that, yes, this is Jeff Tate took more of the direction of this album than the band. So it was a disjointed band. And yeah, before this, they put out Tribe. They had a few years there where like Queensryche were like their popularity had really dwindled. And I cite this album Operation Mindcrime II as the beginning of the end of Jeff Tate with the band, because I think this is what after this they did like some albums that are terrible. And obviously after that, they left, and Jeff Tate did the famous Frequency on No or FU album, where there were two Queensryche albums in the same year. That would be interesting to talk about those two albums and compare them for a future episode. But yeah, the album, I did listen to it when it came out, but it's one of those albums that you listen to it, and at the end, if they ask me, so what's so memorable about it? I would be like, I can't fucking remember. like it's an album that, yeah, you listen to it and it's there. I listened to it when it came out, but I hadn't listened to this in years. And I'm like, yeah, I re-listened to it now, like so many years later with fresh ears, and yeah, I have some thoughts about it that I will talk about in the further rounds. But yes, I did listen to it when it came out, and obviously, it's not Operation Mindcrime I. So yeah, it's a strange record. So now let's go to round two and talk about let's pick three tracks that we think are the weakest. So JC, what tracks did you pick?
Okay, the first one will be Speed of Light, track number 7. It's just really a mess. There's too many samples. It kind of sounds more like that, like modern Queensryche during that time, when they were like, changing their sound at like mid-2000s time. There's really no melody in the song, and that's the problem with the entire album. And just they're trying to like throw so many different like sounds like at the wall, and just like they don't really like sound like songs, so that's why like you don't memorize anything. My next one, it would be I guess track 11, Murderer. Kind of like too much use of the electronics and some of the industrial sounds. Another one, I'm going to say this a lot, that it just lacked the melody. It just had that fast drum beat and it was kind of boring. And the other one I'll pick, track 13, If I Could Change It All. It's just very theatrical, over the top, very dramatic. They have the different like distorted guitars, clean guitars, saxophones. This is the one with the Mary, the female vocalist, and they do that like creepy choir like singing, which they did on the first album, which just sounded good, but it just like didn't work because these songs don't really seem to have any particular structure. There's no memorable chorus. There's no like melodic guitar riffs that you remember. It's just kind of all over the place. So that is all. Those are my three.
Good, good, yeah. And also, I'm mad that Speed of Light is not a Coldplay cover. That's a that's a
Yeah,
and
because
it's a
this
better
came out
song.
after that, didn't it? I think Speed of Light was 2005 from Coldplay, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, and this album was 2006. So
Yeah.
yeah. So Tom, what three tracks did you pick?
I thought I was going to have an exact match with John because he said Speed of Light, Murderer, and I picked those two as well. So yeah, Speed of Light was, as John said, just lacking anything memorable, anything melodic. I just thought the vocals didn't sound quite. It was like a backing vocal thing going on, which didn't sound very in tune, so it sounded a little bit kind of and it was a jumbled up track that for me didn't hit the mark at all. Murderer was, as with JC, just kind of strange again. And you had that kind of question and answer thing where he kind of goes, "What did you do? What did you do?" And that did just kind of grate a bit on me. And the other one I didn't like was this weird track called Circles.
Oh my God,
with the
yes.
long delayed notes. And then about halfway through the track, it just introduces all this background noise and stuff. And you're like, well, what's going on here? I mean, what is even the point of this track? I mean, what part is it playing in this album or anything except just to, make it longer? So yeah, that's my third choice. That's my three. Yeah, Speed of Light and Murder, same as JC.
Yeah. So Tom, that song Circles is the song that you would listen when you're at the dentist getting a root canal, and they would play that to annoy you. So yeah, that's the one. So yeah. So yeah, I think I'm gonna pick a few different ones. I'm picking the single "I'm American" because I think it sucks as a single. First of all, on that track, Geoff Tate sounds terrible. I don't know if you could tell that he didn't have the range that he had, but that song, just the cliches like "I'm American," like I drink. I'm like, okay, Kid Rock, get out of my Queensryche album. I think and it was the single. They only had two singles for this album, that one and The Hands. And "I'm American," I just think it's what you would call cringe. It's a cringe song with very bad lyrics. And when you're comparing the lyrics on this album to this one, it's like apples and oranges. It's so different. I also have to agree. I think the song "If I Could Change It All," it's very dramatic. It feels like a soap opera, and I just didn't care about the story at this point. I thought I'm like, why do I care? Not even the bringing back the Sister Mary singer brings it, because that song lacked, like, I don't know, they were trying to show too much emotion, but I didn't give a shit. So it's like I don't care. And Circles, yes, I agree with Tom with circles. It's a waste of 2 minutes of space. Like, why is it there? It's it like a long intro to the if I could change it all. I just think it's filler. And that's something that this album has a lot. There's a lot of like interludes that are just like, why? So yeah, I picked those 3 songs. So now we're going to the third and final round where we give our final thoughts, uh, and we rate it, or we give a thumbs up or a thumbs down. So JC,
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna give this a thumbs down. I think it's just a big mess. There's really like nothing memorable. I think out of all the songs, I think the one song that you mentioned, The American, I think that one was the one that I thought was like okay, like I could listen to that one again. But other than that, there's really like no reason for me to like go back to this. And like you said before, it's hard to do, sequels to classic albums, especially like when it's like many years later. I can't think of like a band that has done it well, other than you mentioned Between the Married and Me. Really, it was just a really bad idea. It was just they did it out of I think desperation to try to maybe get the band become popular again, but it just it's just not good, and so that's why I give it a thumbs down.
that's don't hold back, John, with your thoughts. Like we should have sent an email to Jeff Tate so he would join us. That
Special
would be
guest.
fun as a guest. Like, Jeff Tate, let's talk about this album. Like, so now, Tom, final thoughts and rating.
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, I think this is a band that we're on a sort of, you know, in a low place at this point, and this was, as you say, kind of the beginning of the end for this version of Queensryche. And I'm glad in a way that what's happened, and that we got Toddler Torre,
Great
because
albums with
the
him.
last 3 or 4 albums, I mean, I've heard now Digital Noise Alliance, The Verdict's, Condition Human. I'm going to be doing a ranking of the band's albums eventually as well on my channel. And those albums are great. I mean, the last one I had really high up on my list, I think number 3 or 4, in my end of year list last year. And this is just, it feels like a band that need a total refresh. And I think this album is just, it shows that. It shows that on a number of different counts, like the songwriting, the production, the just sort of, you can tell that there's not a chemistry, I think, happening behind the scenes with many of the band members. You need the whole band really to be sticking together, I think, to sort of bring back something which is even close to the classic Operation Mindcrime album. So yeah, I mean, I think there were 1 or 2 moments I liked. I think it was the hands actually that you mentioned. That was all right. I didn't mind that. There was an okay chorus to that one. Hostage I've noted down as one that I thought was all right on my first couple of listens. But yeah, overall, there's not enough here to save it, I don't think. I think it's just too boring, too vapid. So yeah, thumbs down.
Good, Tom. So now it leaves me. So yeah, I have to say I actually seen Queensryche live 2 times. I saw them in 2008 in Puerto Rico with Jeff Tate, and it was in a big Coliseum. And you know what? It wasn't even half full. I remember I called that concert like a quiet evening with Queensryche. I even went down to the pit because there were so few people there that they let everyone. I think people in the let's go down so it looks like there's more people than it is. It was like really embarrassing, like a band Queensryche, and it wasn't even half full, the concert, and you could tell like Jeff Tate and the band didn't talk at all. Like you could tell that there was tension there. And then I saw them years later when I was living in Florida with Todd La Torre in a small club, and they killed it. Like, so I got to see the band with both singers, and it was a totally different experience. Wow. And you know what? Even though the second time I saw them, it was in a smaller venue, it was packed. And people were pumped. So having said that, yeah, this is an album that the perfect word to describe it, it's not memorable and it's boring, like Tom said. You know, this is a boring record. There's not one track here that for me stands out. When you think of Operation Mindcrime 1, like you there, like Eyes of a Stranger, Revolution Calling, Operation Mindcrime, Spreading the Disease, like all these
Yeah,
tracks
everything. Yeah.
are memorable. And this is an album that I listened to it like 4 times after this, and I was like trying to keep note, like what do I remember about this album? Like I didn't remember the album at all. Like this is one of the albums that you listen to, and then your brain deletes it right after you listen to it. You know, it's boring. They didn't capture lightning in a bottle twice. You know, you can't do that. And it sounds like a band that was desperate for your attention. And I think people when they listen to this album knew right away, yeah, this is a band that you're trying to be relevant again, and this was not it. So yeah, thumbs down for Operation Mindcrime 2. It's just boring as fuck. So there you have it, people. The three of us has voted, and Operation Mindcrime 2 goes down the drain. And Operation Mindcrime 1 rules, like if you didn't know it. So for next, we have decided that for the next Is It That Bad episode, we're gonna take a band that is very controversial. And I actually did a short video a few weeks ago, and I opened the wrath of the fans of Ronnie Radke and Falling in Reverse. So we're gonna take an album from his, and I Googled to see which one was the worst, and I got a lot of hits. And we're gonna talk about a Falling in Reverse on the next Is It That Bad episode. So we'll see you then. So if you like the videos that we're putting out, please do not forget to subscribe to JC Rock and Metal Reviews and Tom the Green Man. JC Rock and Metal Reviews, he does great rankings. He also does great like album reviews, like very thorough. He'll tell you what note gets played in the 130-minute mark and why is it relevant to the song. And Tom, you know, has some videos for not only music, he has the Shoegaze Files, and he also talks about fantasy and horror. So please subscribe to him as well. And if you can, subscribe to me if you like my content as well. We're nearing 800, and please like and share these videos. It helps us with the YouTube algorithm. So JC, Tom, thank you for joining me again on Is It That Bad?
No problem.
Okay.
And
Thanks.
until next time, people, this is Hector, the Shield Dude on a couch, and we'll see you all right here on the couch for our next episode of Is It That Bad? Thank you and good night.